Hello for now. So, is calisthenics functional? Now I know right away that this question on its own is going to rub some people up the wrong way. First of all, what is functional? Well, let me start by defining what I mean by functional in this case. By functional, I mean something that has transfer to real-world activities and/or sports and athletics. So in other words, if it helps you move better in your daily life and avoid injury, then it's functional. Or if it helps you to perform better in your given sport or maybe across different sports, then it's functional. The good news is that yes, I think calisthenics is extremely functional. In fact, if you had to choose just one modality of training, I'd say that calisthenics would be one of the most functional you could possibly pick. With that said, I also think that no single form of training on its own is enough to create a truly well-rounded fitness profile. So in this video, I'm going to talk about why I think calisthenics is so functional, so beneficial. I'm going to talk about what I think is missing, and I'm going to talk about how you can implement moves and ideas from other forms of training in order to create a more comprehensive training plan. So right out the gate, the fact that you're working out with your own body weight, I think is a massive bonus in terms of functional performance, because it means your strength is always going to be relative to your weight. That means you're going to stay light and explosive. It means you'll be able to jump higher, run faster, pull yourself up, climb, etc. These are all examples of using your body in a dynamic way, and calisthenics lends itself to those things perfectly. More to the point though, calisthenics is fantastic because it builds such incredible proprioception and teaches you to strengthen muscles that you might not even otherwise consider. Learning any calisthenics movement is really a whole journey, especially the more advanced calisthenics movements. For example, if you want to learn something like the planche, you can't just brute force your way into a planche. Trust me, I've tried. Instead, you need to focus on training your straight arm strength. That means training with the arms locked out, something that you might never have considered if you've just come from a bodybuilding or powerlifting background. You need to learn to protract the scapula. You need to learn to tilt your pelvis and contract the glutes. All these things at the same time, and you need to be aware of your whole body doing these things. This is extremely functional because it's giving you greater awareness and control over your whole body. This kind of body awareness will benefit you in every walk of life, every physical activity, and it's something that calisthenics does extremely well. And when I say that learning advanced calisthenics movements is a journey, I'm not kidding. It's not just because you need to learn all this about the body simply to be able to perform the movement. It's also because it's going to take a long time. You're going to have setbacks and injuries. Lord knows I've had my fair share. You're going to hit plateaus and need to adapt your training. You're going to need to manage things like recovery, and you're going to try greasing the groove. All of these are great skills to take into any form of training, and also life skills. The amount of dedication it takes for someone to learn something like the one-handed handstand is incredible, and I have a huge amount of respect for those people. If you can work towards something like that, then really you can achieve any goal. But let's just drop the pretense, shall we? You guys aren't interested in calisthenics or functional training. What even is functional training? You're interested in this. How do I stay looking so fresh? So youthful. I'm joking, obviously. Being a parent has aged me about 25 years over the last 4 years, and that's actually why I'm so grateful for today's sponsor, Hinge. So Hinge is a men's skincare brand, and they make the entire process of maintaining healthy skin for the long term really simple. Subscribe to get a box like this one that contains all of the different products in the package that you choose, and this time they've also sent me a hat. It keeps things uncomplicated, because you also get a card with instructions that shows you precisely how and when to apply each product, and that way there's no guesswork. I personally noticed a difference. I think my skin does look and feel a bit better than it did before, and there's over 5,000 positive customer reviews that seem to share that opinion. I recommend you start with their level 1 system, which comes with all the basics you could need. A daily face wash to get rid of dirt and grime on your skin, a 2 times per week exfoliating scrub to get rid of dead skin cells, an AM moisturizer with SPF 20, and a PM moisturizer. And subscribers will not only get fantastic skin, they also get 20% off the retail price, the ability to pause or cancel their subscription at any time. You also get exclusive monthly deals, free shipping to the US, and low-cost shipping to most other parts of the world. And because Hinge is sponsoring this video, they're also offering a great deal. Just click the link in the description below and you get 30% off your order plus a free gift. Don't miss out on this amazing deal. Click the link and get started today. Now on with the show. It also can't be overstated just how good calisthenics is for the core when performed properly. So many movements in calisthenics, from planche to things like the dragon flag, to even push-ups and plank. they require a really stiff and powerful core with great rigidity. This transfers excellently to athletic performance because with a powerful, stable core, you're better able to transfer power to your limbs. So far then, calisthenics is looking pretty awesome. So what are these setbacks I was talking about? Well, first of all, like so many training modalities, calisthenics does lack quite a lot in the transverse plane, the rotational plane. That is twisting the body. What you do when you're throwing a punch, pulling a lot of things, or wrestling someone, lots of things involve rotation. You can do things like rotating bodyweight rows, and whilst those are quite useful, they tend to actually be more to do with the shoulder rather than rotating the actual core. You can slightly adapt this so that it's more of a core rotation movement. This is about feeling that mind-muscle connection and rotating there instead of just pulling yourself in with your arm. But still, this is quite a limited amount for the rotational plane. If you want to get more for rotation in your calisthenics training, I highly recommend that you just get a band, a resistance band or a cable pulley machine, and you throw in some wood choppers or something like that. Alternatively, you can use a kettlebell and do something like Atlas swings or crossbody kettlebell swings. Those sorts of things are going to be great for adding in that rotational strength and power. You do also get a little bit of anti-rotation in the form of something like one-armed push-ups, where you're preventing your body from twisting towards the ground, but you also want to be actively, dynamically rotating the core if possible. I know what many of you are probably thinking. You're probably thinking that one of the things I'm going to criticize here is leg strength, leg training in calisthenics. But actually I'm going to take a moment to defend leg training in calisthenics, because whilst it's true that calisthenics isn't ideal for building massive or aesthetic legs, I actually don't think that should be the goal if functional performance is what you're interested in, because having really big bulky legs, of course, is detrimental to your performance, which is one of the reasons that calisthenics athletes don't build them so big and strong in the first place. If you're interested in running faster, like I say, then strength to weight ratio is actually more important. And yes, something like a back squat is fantastic for improving your jump height, but there are other ways to do this and to improve your sprint training without piling a whole load of weight onto your back. So for example, one of the very best things you can do to improve your running speed is Nordic curls, where you are basically doing hamstring bodyweight curls. Of course, the ATG split squat is brilliant, and whilst you can do this with dumbbells, it's actually quite effective even without them. Disty squats are brilliant for building really nice, big and powerful quads. And yeah, whilst you're not going to build massively strong legs using calisthenics, I do think you can build very athletic and performant legs, and especially if you also got that nice focus on mobility that does go hand in hand with calisthenics. I would say that if you want to add a bit of weight, then adding about 30% of your body weight with dumbbells or weighted vests, something like that, a kettlebell, can be fantastic as an option, because this is going to improve your explosiveness. So while I was editing this video, I did just think of two more points I wanted to make about calisthenics from a functional perspective. One more positive and one more negative. So to start with the bad news, in calisthenics there's not much picking stuff up from the ground. There's not much of a hip hinge. Even if you do a hip hinge movement like a bodyweight deadlift, you're not adding a lot of resistance to that. And so I do recommend some kind of deadlift, maybe a single-legged RDL using a kettlebell, something like that. Something that has you strengthening your ability to lift stuff up off the floor. But on the flip side, one more positive is that calisthenics is fantastic for training your mobility. Many of the movements you're going to want to perform actually require mobility in order to be able to achieve. Such as handstand push-ups, they require shoulder mobility. You can't do them without it. Thus, you're going to be naturally incorporating more mobility into your training, which I think is a bigger issue for more people than is max strength. So by doing calisthenics, you're going to ensure that your mobility is up to scratch alongside your strength. And in many cases, that's going to be mobility with strength in those end range positions, which is fantastic. But at the same time, in some ways, calisthenics' greatest strength can also be its greatest weakness. I'm talking here about training towards goals, like the planche, like a one-armed handstand, even the handstand. These are fantastic, as I've said. They represent a fantastic training journey. The amount you learn about your body just to be able to perform them is incredible. But if you're so singularly focused on one or two goals, they're going to come at the detriment of other aspects of your performance and your fitness. For example, one criticism I had of my training program, Super Functional Training 2.0, was that you weren't doing enough planche training to learn the planche. And it's true, you'd only be training straight arm strength and planche once or twice a week, depending on how you program the workouts. But this was actually intentional because whilst I'd love to be able to do the planche, I'm not as interested in doing the planche as I am in building the properties, the traits that underlie the planche, like that straight arm strength, scapular control, with things like the advanced tuck planche hold or pseudo planche push-up multiple times per week. That's very intense on the biceps tendons. It's going to limit the amount of other bicep training you can do, things like chin-ups, and that's going to impact on your bicep size and strength, your latch strength, other aspects of your training. And it's even just going to affect the amount of time you have to do things like train rotational strength. So if you want a more well-rounded performance profile, I actually recommend that you don't be so laser focused on one or two goals, but focus instead on being more of a jack of all trades and accepting that you might not get to the very, very peak in one particular area, but it's better to have lots of skills and lots of areas. Not everyone's going to agree with me here. If you're completely focused on learning those goals, then that's great. And like I say, I have a huge amount of respect for people who achieve those things. But if you're interested in overall well-rounded fitness and performance, then being so focused on just one or two goals can be a mistake, I think. And the other unfortunate fact of the matter is that some people just aren't built to perform planche. It's going to be much harder if you're taller, if you have long, heavy legs, for example. And whilst I'm not saying it's off the limits for anybody, it can be disheartening if you're putting in a whole load of training and you're not getting there. So I think have your eggs in lots of baskets. It's great if you get those things, they're nice to have, but they shouldn't be the sole focus of your training. Now, of course, this isn't an issue with calisthenics itself, it's more about programming, and the way you program can make any training modality better or worse, but it is a common issue I see with calisthenics, and it's something to be aware of if this is going to be your primary mode of training. Let me know what you think in the comments down below. Do you think calisthenics is a functional form of training? Do you think you should be adding additional aspects of other training modalities on top of it to get the most from it? Let me know down below. If you're looking for a training program that focuses primarily on functional performance and ties together lots of different training modalities, with a heavy emphasis on calisthenics actually, then you might enjoy my ebook and training program, Super Functional Training 2.0. That also comes with over 2 hours of instructional training videos, so check it out if you're interested. Either way guys, thank you so much for watching this one. Bye for now.